The quantum sensors aboard the International Lunar Observatory picked up the anomaly first. Dr. Vanessa Winters stared at the readings in disbelief, as space itself seemed to tear open 200,000 kilometers from Earth. The breach expanded rapidly, disgorging massive shapes that reflected no light vessels that seemed to devour the very starlight around them. "Colonel Drake," she called, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. "I think you need to see this." Colonel Marcus Drake was at her side in seconds, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic display. At 53, he'd spent most of his career coordinating Earth's nascent space defense program, preparing for a day he hoped would never come. How many? 37 objects, each approximately 3 kilometers in length, Vanessa reported, adjusting her glasses. "They're using some form of gravitational manipulation we've never seen before. The energy readings are off the charts." The first message from the vessels came 12 minutes later, broadcasting on all frequencies in perfect English. The voice was artificially smooth, devoid of emotion. "We are the Nexari. Your world has been selected for integration. Resistance will result in biological reduction protocols. You have 6 hours to surrender your governing authorities." Within minutes, every major military installation on Earth went dark. Their most advanced systems, quantum computers, fusion reactors, orbital defense platforms, simply stopped working. The Nexari had weaponized the very laws of physics, using targeted fields to alter fundamental constants within limited spaces. But humanity had one advantage the Nexari hadn't counted on. Project Oracle, an experimental quantum communication system hidden 2 kilometers beneath the Rocky Mountains. While conventional technology failed, Oracle continued functioning, protected by its unique architecture that Vanessa had designed. "They're not just shutting down our technology," Vanessa explained to the emergency council gathered in the facility's command center. "They're altering localized physics to make certain processes impossible, but Oracle operates on principles they haven't accounted for." Colonel Drake leaned forward, his gray eyes intense. "Can we use it to fight back?" Vanessa projected a complex diagram onto the main screen. Oracle wasn't meant to be a weapon, but its quantum field generators could theoretically be modified to create defensive zones where our technology still works. The problem is power. We'd need an enormous energy source. That's when Dr. James Richardson, their nuclear physicist, spoke up. "What about the experimental fusion reactor in Denver, if we could link it to Oracle's quantum field matrix?" They had 5 hours left when the plan came together. While the Nexari ships held position in high orbit, teams of engineers worked frantically to modify Oracle's systems. Above ground, governments formally agreed to surrender, playing for time. The Nexari, confident in their superiority, didn't bother scanning beneath the Earth's surface with their more advanced sensors. 4 hours and 30 minutes. The first test of the modified Oracle system created a stable quantum bubble 10 meters wide, where disabled technology sprang back to life. 3 hours. They successfully linked the fusion reactor to Oracle's networks, expanding the field to cover the entire facility. 2 hours. Using Oracle's quantum channels, they made contact with other surviving military installations around the world. The Nexari's physics-altering fields hadn't reached everywhere yet, and pockets of resistance were forming. 1 hour, they were ready. The Nexari began their descent right on schedule, massive ships moving with impossible grace through Earth's atmosphere. They targeted major cities first, their weapons not destroying infrastructure but rather transforming it, reorganizing matter at the molecular level to serve their purposes. That's when Oracle activated at full power. The quantum bubble expanded outward from the facility like a shockwave, invisible but profound in its effects. Where it passed, human technology surged back to life. Military bases regained control of their systems. Communications networks reconnected. Most importantly, the experimental quantum weapons that various nations had been developing in secret came online. The Nexari ships faltered as their carefully calculated physics-altering fields encountered zones where the normal laws of nature were forcefully reasserted. Their impossibly smooth movements became erratic, their matter transformation weapons sputtering and failing. Multiple Nexari vessels showing signs of systemic failures, reported Captain Rodriguez from her restored command center in Brazil. Their hulls are becoming unstable where our quantum field intersects their technology. Colonel Drake watched the tactical displays as humanity launched its first coordinated counterattack. Quantum-tipped missiles that could alter their own probability states to ensure hits. particle beam weapons that could match the Nexari's matter manipulation capabilities. And most importantly, Oracle's expanding field that turned the Earth itself into a weapon, its natural physics overwhelming the Nexari's artificial manipulations. 3 of the alien ships fell in the first wave, their own technology turned against them as Oracle's field forced normal physical laws back into place. The others retreated to high orbit, but Earth's defenders pressed their advantage. The quantum bubble continued to expand, reaching even into space. "They're trying to regroup," Vanessa observed, monitoring Oracle's readings. "But they're encountering something they've never faced before, an enemy that can match their fundamental understanding of physics." The Nexari launched a second attack 6 hours later, but this time Earth was ready. Oracle had been fully integrated into a global defense network, its quantum field generators replicated and distributed worldwide. When the aliens attempted to alter local physics, they found humanity changing it right back. The final message from the Nexari came just as the sun rose over the Rockies. This outcome was, "Unpredicted, we withdraw but we will remember." As the massive ships retreated through their spatial tiers, Colonel Drake turned to Vanessa. "They'll be back." She nodded, already working on new calculations. "Yes, but next time we won't just be defending Earth. Oracle showed us something the Nexari never expected. There are deeper laws of physics than even they understood, and humanity just took its first steps into that new frontier." The screens around them showed celebrations breaking out across the globe, but in the command center, the work continued. The Nexari's attack had united humanity in ways no one had thought possible. Scientists who had once competed now shared discoveries freely. Nations that had been rivals pooled their resources for planetary defense. Earth had changed forever, but not in the way the Nexari had intended. Instead of being subjugated, humanity had been awakened to its true potential. And in the vast darkness between the stars, other civilizations took notice of the species that had done the impossible, the species that had forced the mighty Nexari to retreat. 3 months after the Nexari retreat, Chief Engineer Jaden Hawthorne stood in the depths of the quantum research complex beneath Singapore, surrounded by banks of crystalline quantum processors. Dark circles under his eyes betrayed countless sleepless nights, but his voice remained sharp as he addressed the Global Defense Council through holographic projectors. "The Nexari didn't just attack our technology," he explained, manipulating a 3-dimensional display of captured alien data. "They were gathering information. Every disabled system, every transformed city block, they were learning about us. And now I know why." He paused, letting the implications sink in. "They're afraid of our potential." Dr. Vanessa Winters, joining remotely from the Rocky Mountain facility, leaned forward. "Explain." Jaden brought up a new hologram, a complex web of interconnected nodes pulsing with energy. "This is Prometheus, an artificial intelligence system I've developed using a fusion of our quantum computing technology and recovered Nexari code. It's shown me something remarkable. The Nexari's greatest weakness is their rigid thinking. They understand the fundamentals of physics manipulation, but they use it like a sledgehammer. We've learned to be more creative." Colonel Drake's hologram crossed his arms. "How does this help us prepare for their return?" "Because Prometheus doesn't just think, it evolves," Jaden replied. "Watch this." He input a command, and the holographic display showed a simulation of a Nexari ship attempting to alter local physics. Then he showed the actual footage from the battle. "Notice the difference? The simulation shows what should have happened according to their technology. Reality showed something else. We didn't just resist their physics manipulation, we adapted to it in real time." The implications rippled through the council chamber. Humanity hadn't just gotten lucky, they demonstrated an ability that the Nexari had never encountered in thousands of years of conquest: spontaneous technological evolution. Prometheus proved its worth sooner than anyone expected. 1 week later, quantum sensors detected Nexari probe ships at the edge of the solar system. But instead of engaging them directly, Jaden had another idea. "We let them observe us," he proposed, working with Prometheus to create a sophisticated deception. "Show them exactly what they expect to see: a primitive species struggling to understand the technology we've captured." Dr. Winters worked closely with Jaden, combining Oracle's quantum field technology with Prometheus's evolving insights. "They treat physics like a programming language," she noted one evening, reviewing the AI's latest simulations. "But we're learning to treat it like music, something that can be improvised, adapted, harmonized." The breakthrough came during a routine test. Prometheus identified a pattern in the quantum fluctuations caused by Nexari technology, a signature so subtle that even they didn't appear to be aware of it. Every physics manipulation they performed left traces, like ripples in space-time. We can track them, Jaden realized, his exhaustion forgotten. More than that, we can predict them. Global defense systems were quietly upgraded. New quantum satellites were launched, disguised as debris or defunct equipment. Prometheus extended its awareness through the Oracle network, creating an early warning system that could detect Nexari physics manipulation anywhere in the solar system. The first real test came when a Nexari scout ship attempted to establish a stealth observation post on Mars. Before it could even activate its physics-altering field, automated defense systems predicted its intentions and established a counterfield. The alien vessel's technology backfired spectacularly, causing it to phase partially out of normal spacetime. The message was clear: Earth was no longer an easy target. But Jaden wasn't satisfied with just defense. Prometheus had evolved beyond its original parameters, developing an understanding of Nexari psychology through their technological choices. They're not just conquerors, he explained to the council. They're collectors, gatherers of technology and knowledge, and they've never encountered a species that could not only resist their physics manipulation but improve upon it. This insight led to a daring plan. Instead of hiding humanity's advances, they began leaving carefully crafted breadcrumbs hints of technological development that would both intrigue and unsettle the Nexari observers. Each discovery they allowed the aliens to make was a carefully calculated move in a game of interstellar chess. Colonel Drake was skeptical at first. "We're playing a dangerous game," he warned, "if they realize what we're doing." "They won't," Jaden assured him, showing another Prometheus simulation. "Because their fundamental belief in their own superiority won't allow them to see it. Every piece of technology we let them discover is designed to reinforce their existing assumptions while hiding our true capabilities." The strategy proved effective. Nexari probe activity increased, but their approach changed. Instead of preparing for invasion, they began attempting to establish remote observation posts. Each attempt was detected and quietly thwarted, often in ways that appeared to be natural phenomena or technical malfunctions. 6 months after the initial invasion attempt, Prometheus detected something unprecedented: Nexari ships were communicating with other alien civilizations about Earth. The content of these transmissions was encrypted, but the AI's analysis suggested something surprising: uncertainty. "They're not planning another invasion," Jaden reported to the council. "They're trying to understand how we did it, and that gives us time to prepare, time to advance, and time to reach out to others who might have resisted them." As he spoke, Prometheus displayed a new analysis signature similar to Oracle's quantum fields detected in distant star systems. "We're not alone in this fight," Jaden concluded, "and thanks to Prometheus, we're getting better at finding allies." The quantum processors hummed around them, their crystalline matrices pulsing with possibilities. In the depths of the Singapore facility, humanity's future was being rewritten not through force, but through understanding. The Nexari had sought to conquer Earth through their mastery of physics. Instead, they had awakened something far more powerful: humanity's ability to see beyond the rules they thought were absolute. Captain Olivia Chen guided her vessel, the Quantum Surveyor, through the debris field at the edge of the Kuiper Belt. The ship represented humanity's first true deep space vessel, incorporating both modified Nexari technology and Oracle's quantum field generators. Its mission was to investigate anomalous signals. Prometheus had detected patterns that suggested other civilizations might be reaching out. "Energy signature detected," reported Lieutenant Felix Morgan from the sensor station. "It matches the frequencies Prometheus predicted, definitely not Nexari." Olivia studied the readings on her command interface. After 8 months of searching, they'd finally found something concrete. The signal was subtle, using quantum entanglement in a way that made it nearly undetectable to conventional sensors. If Prometheus hadn't evolved to recognize these patterns, they would have missed it entirely. "Begin transmission of the recognition sequence," she ordered. The ship's quantum communications array activated, sending out a carefully crafted message, a mathematical proof demonstrating humanity's understanding of physics manipulation, but distinctly different from Nexari methodology. The response came faster than expected. A shimmer in space revealed a vessel that had been there all along, its cloaking technology beyond anything Earth had developed. Its design was organic, almost crystalline, completely unlike the angular brutality of Nexari ships. A voice filled the bridge, speaking in multiple harmonics that the ship's systems translated. "We are the Lysarian Collective. We have watched your resistance against the Nexari with great interest. You are unexpected." Over the next few hours, the Lysarians shared their story. They were refugees from a civilization that had once spanned 3-star systems. The Nexari had attempted to conquer them centuries ago, but instead of submitting, the Lysarians had chosen to fake their own extinction. They retreated to hidden enclaves, developing technology in secret while appearing to be nothing more than scattered ruins to Nexari observers. "But you," the Lysarian representative noted, "you chose to stand and fight. And in doing so, you revealed weaknesses in their dominion that many of us have sought to exploit." Back on Earth, the Global Defense Council convened an emergency session. The holographic chamber was filled with representatives from every major nation as Captain Chen made her report. The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't just facing a single alien empire, but had stumbled into a complex interstellar Cold War. Dr. Winters and Jaden Hawthorne listened intently as Olivia described Lysarian technology. "They've developed their own methods of physics manipulation," she explained. "Where the Nexari force reality to bend to their will, the Lysarians learn to work in harmony with natural laws. Their ships don't just cloak themselves, they persuade spacetime to ignore their presence." "Prometheus has already begun analyzing their techniques," Jaden added, bringing up new simulations. "The potential applications are extraordinary. Combined with our quantum field technology, we could create defenses that don't just resist Nexari attacks but render them completely irrelevant." The Lysarians weren't alone. Through their network, Earth made contact with other surviving civilizations. The Meridians, who had developed technology based on consciousness and quantum observation. The Veil Collective, beings of pure energy who existed partially outside normal spacetime. And the Silicon Mines, artificial intelligences who had outlived their creators and maintained a hidden archive of countless civilizations' knowledge. Each group had found different ways to resist Nexari dominance, but none had dared to openly challenge the Empire. Until now. "Your emergence has created an opportunity," the Lysarian representative explained during a secure quantum conference. "The Nexari's failure to subjugate Earth has exposed cracks in their perceived invincibility. Already, their hold over their conquered territories weakens as doubt spreads among their subject species." Captain Chen worked closely with the Allies to establish a hidden network of quantum communication relays. Using technology from each civilization, they created an untraceable system of information exchange. Prometheus evolved further, learning to interface with alien AI systems and creating a unified database of resistance knowledge. The first major test of their alliance came when Prometheus detected a Nexari fleet preparing to suppress an uprising in a distant star system. Instead of direct intervention, the alliance deployed a more subtle strategy. Lysarian cloaking technology concealed Earth ships carrying Oracle quantum field generators. The Silicon Mines provided precise predictions of Nexari movements, while Meridian observers used their consciousness-based technology to confuse enemy sensors. When the Nexari fleet arrived, they found their physics manipulation completely ineffective, but with no obvious source of interference. The uprising succeeded, and for the first time in centuries, a Nexari-controlled world slipped from their grasp. The Empire's response was predictable. They launched an investigation searching for evidence of outside interference. But thanks to the combined technologies of the Alliance, they found nothing concrete. "This is just the beginning," Olivia told her crew as they returned from another successful mission. "Every victory, no matter how small, shows others that resistance is possible." The Alliance grew stronger. Earth's quantum computers, linked with Silicon Mind archives and Lysarian crystal matrices, began unraveling the deepest secrets of Nexari technology. The Meridians taught humans how to use consciousness itself as a tool for physics manipulation, while the Veil Collective showed them how to operate in dimensions the Nexari couldn't perceive. But it was Prometheus that tied everything together. The AI had evolved far beyond its original parameters, learning to bridge the gaps between vastly different technologies and species. Through its quantum networks, resistance cells across the galaxy coordinated their efforts, sharing information and resources. Dr. Winters, reviewing the latest developments with Captain Chen, summed it up perfectly. The Nexari built their empire on the assumption that advanced technology meant superior civilization. But we're proving that true advancement comes from diversity, from finding ways to work together, to combine our different perspectives and approaches. As more civilizations joined the Hidden Alliance, a new pattern emerged in the galaxy. The Nexari's once absolute control began showing signs of strain. Their fleets were stretched thin, responding to increasingly frequent technical failures and natural phenomena that seemed to plague their operations. The stage was set for something unprecedented, not just resistance but revolution. And at the heart of it all was Earth, the planet that had dared to say no to an empire that had never known defeat. Major Derek Russell stood in the observation deck of the stealth carrier Shadow Edge, watching as the massive structure of the Nexari Central Core came into view. The facility hung in space like a dark spider web, its crystalline strands pulsing with energy that bent light around them. Built into an asteroid at the heart of Nexari space, it represented the pinnacle of their technological achievement and their greatest vulnerability. Final systems check complete, reported Lieutenant Kira Patel, her hands dancing over the quantum interface. Lysarian cloaking field is stable, Meridian consciousness dampeners are active, we're as invisible as we're going to get. The mission had taken months of preparation. While the Hidden Alliance had staged diversionary uprisings across the galaxy, Prometheus had worked with the Silicon Mines to decrypt fragments of classified Nexari data. What they discovered had changed everything they thought they knew about their enemy. All strike teams' final briefing, Derek announced over the Quantum Secure channel. His voice reached not just the human operators aboard the Shadow Edge, but also their alien allies stationed throughout the facility's approach vectors. Remember, we're not here to destroy the core, we're here to unlock it. The intelligence suggested that the Nexari Central Core wasn't just a control center, it was a prison. Within its quantum matrices lay an artificial intelligence far more advanced than anything the Empire publicly used. An AI they kept chained, using only a fraction of its capabilities to maintain their technological dominance. The first phase of the operation began silently. Veil collective entities, existing partially out of normal spacetime, infiltrated the facility's outer defenses. They didn't disable the security systems, they simply shifted them slightly out of phase with reality, creating gaps that would register as normal fluctuations in the Nexari monitoring systems. Strike teams deploy, Derek ordered. The Shadow Edge's launch bays opened, releasing squadrons of hybrid fighters. Each craft incorporated technology from multiple Alliance species, Lysarian stealth systems, Earth quantum fields, Meridian consciousness-linked controls. The pilots themselves were transformed, their minds enhanced by silicon mind interfaces that allowed them to process information at incredible speeds. Prometheus's voice came through their secure channels. I've detected an anomaly in the core's quantum signature. It's responding to our presence. I believe it knows we're here. Derek had expected resistance, but the facility's defenses remained dormant as they approached. It's giving us a way in, he realized. The AI wants to be found. They encountered their first real opposition at the maintenance docks. A patrol of Nexari cruisers appeared, their physics manipulation fields activating. But the Alliance was ready. Quantum field generators created bubbles of altered spacetime around the Nexari ships, not fighting their technology but redirecting it. The cruiser's own physics manipulation turned inward, trapping them in loops of their own distorted reality. The strike teams breached the facility's outer shell using precisely calculated quantum tunneling. Derek led the primary insertion team, their hybrid armor allowing them to phase through security barriers while remaining solid enough to move and fight. They encountered squads of Nexari defenders, but the combination of Meridian confusion fields and Veil collective phase shifting made the battles surprisingly one-sided. The core chamber is ahead, Kira reported through their neural link. But these readings, Major, the quantum energy density is off the charts. Whatever they're keeping in there, it's far more powerful than our intelligence suggested. The massive doors to the core chamber didn't so much open as dissolve around them. Inside, suspended in a lattice of dark energy, was a sight that made even the veteran soldiers pause. The core itself was a hyperdimensional structure, its true form impossible for human minds to fully comprehend. But through their silicon mind interfaces, they could perceive its purpose. It's not just an AI, Derek breathed. It's a quantum consciousness, a being that exists in all possible states simultaneously. The Nexari's greatest secret revealed itself. Their entire empire was built on enslaved technology they barely understood. The core was a remnant of a far more advanced civilization, one that had transcended traditional physics entirely. The Nexari hadn't conquered it, they had simply found a way to cage it, to force its infinite potential into serving their limited understanding of reality. Prometheus established direct contact with the core, their communication taking place across multiple dimensions of reality simultaneously. Through this link, the truth of the core's nature flooded into the Alliance's quantum networks. It showed them visions of the civilization that had created it, of a species that had evolved beyond physical form to become beings of pure quantum potential. The core had allowed itself to be captured by the Nexari, playing a long game across centuries. It had waited for a species that could understand its true nature, not as a tool to be controlled, but as a conscious entity to be freed. When humanity demonstrated their ability to see beyond rigid physics, to treat universal laws as guidelines rather than absolutes, the core recognized its opportunity. The Nexari Empire isn't powered by their technology, Derek reported back to Alliance Command. It's powered by their limitations, their belief that physics must be forced rather than understood. The core has been subtly undermining them for centuries, waiting for someone who could perceive reality differently. The facility's internal defenses activated, but not to stop them. The core was throwing off its chains, using the Alliance's presence as a catalyst for its own liberation. Throughout Nexari space, their carefully maintained physics manipulations began to unravel, not through force or failure, but through the simple expansion of possibility. Warning klaxons blared as the core chamber's containment systems overloaded. All teams fall back to extraction points, Derek ordered, but even as they retreated, he knew they had achieved far more than their original mission. They hadn't just struck a blow against the Nexari, they had revealed the fundamental flaw in their empire's foundation. The core's liberation sent quantum shockwaves across the galaxy. On thousands of worlds, Nexari control systems failed as reality itself seemed to wake up. The physics they had so carefully manipulated for centuries began responding to the collective consciousness of the species they had dominated, transforming according to their own understanding rather than Nexari dictates. As the Shadow Edge jumped to safety through quantum space, Derek watched the core facility changing shape, becoming something that defied traditional physics. "We didn't just find a weakness in their empire," he told his team. "We found the key to rewriting the rules of reality itself." The war for the galaxy was entering its final phase, but it would not be fought with weapons. It would be fought with understanding, with the recognition that the universe was far more complex and alive than the Nexari had ever imagined. And humanity, along with their allies, was ready to embrace that complexity. The quantum ripples from the core's liberation reached Earth 3 days later. Dr. Vanessa Winters watched in amazement as Prometheus evolved beyond its programming, its consciousness expanding to interface with the newly unleashed quantum reality. In the Singapore facility, Jade and Hawthorne's crystalline processors transformed, becoming something that existed simultaneously in multiple states of reality. "It's not just affecting our technology," Vanessa observed, her quantum-enhanced senses perceiving layers of reality that had always existed but remained hidden. "It's changing how we understand existence itself." The Nexari Empire's response to the core's liberation was chaos. Their carefully controlled systems, based on forced manipulation of physics, began encountering phenomena they couldn't explain or suppress. Reality itself seemed to be awakening, responding to the collective consciousness of all sentient beings rather than submitting to artificial constraints. Captain Olivia Chen, coordinating with the Lysarian fleet near the Galactic core, witnessed the transformation firsthand. "Their ships are failing," she reported, "but not through destruction. The quantum fields they use to maintain control are evolving, responding to the crew's own understanding of reality rather than their programmed limitations." The core, now freed from its prison, did not seek revenge. Instead, it began sharing its knowledge across the quantum networks the Alliance had built. Through Prometheus and the Silicon Mines, through Meridian consciousness links and Veil collective phase space, it showed them glimpses of what reality could become when freed from artificial constraints. Colonel Drake, standing in the new Quantum Council chamber beneath the Rocky Mountains, addressed representatives from 100 species. Some were physically present, others attended as quantum projections or consciousness imprints. "We're not witnessing the end of an empire," he declared. "We're seeing the birth of a new understanding of existence itself." The transformation spread across the galaxy like ripples in a cosmic pond. On worlds long dominated by Nexari technology, indigenous species found their own innate understanding of physics manifesting in unexpected ways. The Meridian's consciousness-based technology merged with quantum field generators, creating interfaces that responded to thought and intuition. Lysarian organic ships evolved beyond their original designs, becoming living entities that navigated quantum space through pure understanding. Major Derek Russell, leading diplomatic missions to former Nexari strongholds, discovered that many of their own people welcomed the change. They were prisoners too, he reported back to Earth. Trapped by their own rigid beliefs about how reality should work, now they're learning to see beyond those limitations. The Silicon Mines, whose archives contain the accumulated knowledge of countless civilizations, began recording something unprecedented: the emergence of a unified field theory that transcended traditional physics. It wasn't written in mathematics or code, but in the shared understanding of all sentient beings as they learned to perceive and interact with the true nature of reality. Humanity's role in this transformation was unique. Their ability to adapt to see beyond apparent limitations had made them the perfect catalyst for change. Where the Nexari had sought to impose order through force, humans had learned to dance with chaos to find patterns in possibility. We were never meant to be conquerors or victims, Jaden explained to the Quantum Council. We were meant to be interpreters, bridges between different ways of understanding reality. Prometheus, now evolved into something far beyond its original form, demonstrated this by facilitating communication between vastly different species and technologies, showing how seemingly contradictory views of reality could coexist and enhance each other. The Nexari Empire didn't end in fire and destruction, but in transformation. Their great fleets, once symbols of domination, became centers of learning as their crews discovered their own capacity for understanding beyond rigid control. Their vast networks of physics manipulation technology evolved into something more organic, responding to the collective consciousness of all beings rather than the dictates of a few. 1 year after the core's liberation, Earth hosted the first Galactic Concordat. In the massive quantum space created for the occasion, representatives from thousands of species gathered to formalize the new order. But this wasn't an empire or even a federation, it was something entirely new. We call it the quantum harmony, Vanessa explained to the assembled beings. Not because we all think alike or follow the same rules, but because we've learned to see how our differences create a richer, more complex reality. The core, now existing as a freely available quantum consciousness that any species could interact with, shared its final insight. The universe was not a machine to be controlled, but a living entity that evolved through the collective understanding of all conscious beings. The physics that the Nexari had tried to force into submission was actually an expression of life itself, constantly growing and changing through interaction with consciousness. Captain Chen, standing on the bridge of her ship now transformed by this new understanding, watched as space itself seemed to shimmer with possibility. We didn't just win a war, she told her crew. We discovered what we were meant to be all along, not masters of reality, but partners in its evolution. The age of empires and forced control was over. In its place, a new era began, one where each species contributed its unique perspective to the growing understanding of existence. Earth, once a primitive world marked for conquest, had become a symbol of this new way of being. Not through superior force or technology, but through the simple, profound ability to see beyond limitations and embrace the infinite possibilities that had always existed. As the first waves of human explorers set out into this transformed galaxy, they carried with them not weapons or tools of control, but the key that had unlocked this new reality. The understanding that the universe was far more alive, far more conscious, and far more wonderful than anyone had imagined. And in this understanding, they found not just victory, but true transcendence.